control of the U.S. House could be decided at any moment.
Republicans are looking to solidify the party's leadership for the next session in Congress as the midterm results are continuing to trickle in.
Yeah, let's take a look at them now. CBS News projects the GOP is now just one single seat away from hitting the 218 threshold needed to claim the majority in the lower chamber. California Representative Kevin McCarthy is expected to be named the next Speaker of the House. Republicans in the Senate nominated the current House Minority Leader for the role by a vote of 188 to 31. For more, let's bring in CBS News national correspondent Scott MacFarlane to discuss this. Scott, how significant is the fact that 31 Republicans voted against Kevin McCarthy, and what does that mean for his chances of becoming Speaker of the House?
It's a pretty big hurdle, Errol. He needs to surmount that hurdle between now and January 3rd. January 3rd is when the next Congress begins, the 118th Congress, and the 188 votes he got from his House Republican conference members yesterday to be their nominee for Speaker will not be sufficient to make him Speaker on January 3rd. He has to corral 30 more votes from House Republicans. If it's a very narrow margin, should they take the majority, if it's a 3 or 4 seat margin, that means he has only 3 or 4 votes to lose. And nearly 3 dozen House Republicans voted in protest of him, in essence, yesterday by voting for the alternative candidate, Andy Biggs. Now, that gives those 30 or so members quite a bit of leverage between now and January 3rd to try to exact some concessions from Kevin McCarthy, get him to support something that they're pushing. But also, it's worth noting, Errol and Lana, Kevin McCarthy has some leverage too.
Right.
There's no viable alternative for those 218 votes inside the Republican Party, and Republicans are not about to let Nancy Pelosi or whoever leads the Democrats next year become Speaker with their majority. So both sides will push and pull, and we'll see how this culminates January 3rd.
Yeah, I imagine that would be difficult to explain to your constituents if you're a Republican elected saying that you cast a vote that allowed Nancy Pelosi to become Speaker there. Let's talk about the Senate, Scott, because Florida Senator Rick Scott is challenging Mitch McConnell for his seat as the Senate Minority Leader. Not only does it sort of continue those themes about infighting within the Republican Party that we're talking about, but I'm wondering, what is he hoping that he can bring that McConnell hasn't brought to that leadership position over the last couple of sessions?
In his letter to his colleague, Senator Rick Scott, the former Florida governor, the first-term Florida senator, said he wants to be a change agent, that Republicans too often have been caving to Democrats, and that's partly to blame for their less than sought performance last Tuesday at the midterm elections. The letter obtained by CBS News includes all kinds of details of how he'd shake up the status quo. He's trying to surmount Mitch McConnell in Republican leadership in the U.S. Senate. Mitch McConnell, a storied figure in modern Republican era in the U.S. Senate, but the story is more like Don Quixote. He doesn't have the votes to make this happen, according to Mitch McConnell. Rick Scott doesn't have the votes. During a marathon Wednesday morning meeting here at the Capitol, Republicans appear destined to be ready to re-elect Mitch McConnell as their leader. So Rick Scott is aiming for something. It doesn't appear he's going to hit what he's aiming at, though.
Fascinating to watch all this jockeying take place, though. Scott MacFarlane, thank you very much.
I do love a good Don Quixote reference.
Yeah, well.